Let's talk gay marriage.
Sure.
You're not big on gay marriage.
No, I'm not on a social level. I think the government ought to be completely out of the business of marriage. I think the government sucks at everything, is my short message for today. The government is terrible at everything. If the government's goal was to forward traditional marriage, it utterly failed, obviously, as proved.
But you don't mind it being out of the business of traditional marriage at all?
No,
right?
I think the government should be out of all marriage. I think the government stinks at this. You know, now, I will say that, I think the idea of the government subsidizing gay marriage is silly because I don't think that there's societal benefit to gay marriage. The reason I want the government out of the business of marriage is because now that the government has enshrined gay marriage, the next step is going to be going to religious people and telling them they have to engage with same-sex weddings. So as a religious person, this is problematic to me. I want a society in which I can do what I want and I don't have to care what you think, and you can do what you want and you don't have to care what I think.
Right.
That doesn't mean you get to come into my synagogue and get married. It also doesn't mean that I have to go to your gay wedding.
Right, and that's an interesting place to have the discussion because I would argue for gay marriage for the exact reasons. I don't want the government involved in all of these things,
right.
And that's exactly why gay marriage should exist. And I think if Rand Paul had hit that point harder, it would have made a sensible libertarian argument for limited government. And you know what? You want to marry a dude? Go ahead. And you want to smoke weed?
You're right. Well, I tend to agree. Both of those things I agree with. And by the way, I find people who smoke weed unbelievably irritating, but that's not my business.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is the beauty of America is you don't have to give a crap what I think.
Right. So you're not against. So despite coming from some sort of.
This is not a religious argument.
So that, right.
I don't make a religious argument.
So that's what I want to distinguish because of course, because we should be for separation of church and state, and I think you are for separation of church and state.
So the separation of church and state means, I just want to make a quick distinction.
Yeah.
Separation of church and state doesn't mean that I can't bring my religious values to bear in how I vote. It just means that I can't leverage Jewish ritual on you. There's no establishment of Jewish religion or Christian religion, but I should be able to make a secular argument for why what I'm saying is right, is my general rule, because otherwise we're operating in different spheres. If I cite the Bible, it makes no difference to you. You don't care about the Bible.
So you're making the distinction between this isn't coming from a religious place. Now, I think part of the problem when it comes to gay marriage is that a huge portion of the Christian right is trying to impose their religious values on this. So you
but
are
the policy
making
itself isn't religious.
But the
Like
I
the
want to make
rationale for the policy this is where I'm making a distinction.
Yeah.
The rationale for people voting can still be religious, but if the policy is not religious, if there's a secular rationale, this is what Scalia said about it actually. If there's a secular rationale to it, then the motivations of the voters don't matter. Like I don't care what the motivation of the voter is in virtually any circumstance, I matter what the vote is. Right? And if somebody wants to vote for lower taxes, I don't care whether they're doing it because they're on principle for lower taxes or whether they personally want lower taxes on their income. I just care about the outcome of the vote.
The outcome of the vote. Okay, so basically you don't care about gay marriage. As this country stands right now, you simply don't care. Your one concern, though, is that ultimately this will lead to the government forcing gay marriage on synagogues that don't want to have it or mosques that don't want to have it.
Yeah, not ultimately, like now. In California, they've already passed laws that you have to teach same-sex marriage in public schools, for example. Like, it changes the nature of the teaching. My view on that is I don't know why I went to public school for elementary and part of junior high. I don't understand why the government is teaching me anything about this stuff. This is for my parents to teach me. Like, this is a values thing.
Right, so I guess that's sort of where it's just, values just get conflated with what we're taught. Like, it's just sort of a...
Yes and no. I mean, there are no values to math. Right, there are no values.
Well, math, right, but
there are no values to biology. There are values to history, which is why it's dicey and it's disingenuous what the left has done with the education system. There are multiple perspectives on history, and the monopolistic takeover of the liberal arts is a real problem.
Yeah.
And you can have multiple perspectives on that, but we're not teaching marriage in the context of history or English. We're teaching it in the context of science, which has nothing to do with anything. And again, a PC comes in. I mean, when they were doing sex ed, when I was in junior high, they were making a big deal out of the idea that everybody is equally likely to get AIDS, for example. Not true. I mean, it's just not true. But AIDS is a behaviorally driven disease. Right? I will never get AIDS. Right? Barring a blood transfusion that has AIDS. I don't do intravenous drugs, and I don't have promiscuous sex. And I was a virgin when I married my wife, and she was a virgin when she married me. So we're safe.
Yeah.
Right? We're good. We're about as safe as you can get on this. And so I don't like the facts being trumped by what we wish the facts were so that we could push certain political agendas.
Right, so how do you then, taking this argument from a secular place, how do you then feel being in the same party of so many people that are taking it from a right-wing Christian place? Because there's a seemingly odd alliance there that I think is...
Not really, I agree with them on the end point. I even agree with them religiously. I just don't think they're good spokespeople for their cause. I mean, I think that if your chief citation to your opposition to gay marriage is Leviticus 18:22, I don't think that that's a solid argument that's going to convince a lot of people.
Right.
I think that, there are better arguments against gay marriage than that.
Right.
And so, this is something I talk about at religious schools, and I've been asked by, pastors and rabbis and priests to talk to students about, okay, you have these religious principles. Is there any justification outside of the Bible says so for why this is correct? And as a religious person who's actually thought through his positions, I tend to believe there is. Like, as a religious person, I believe that God didn't create stupid rules. So if you believe that God didn't create stupid rules, then you have to come up with some sort of justification for the rules that are being expressed. Like, there's some that you can't understand, that's just an article of faith, but the big ones about human behavior, there should be a decent rationale you can explain to people who don't buy into revelation.
Sure. So there I would just say, well, you're basing your belief in God. It's just a belief, not anything that could be proven. So
right, but that's every belief system.
So no.
Right.
But anyone that's basing anything on religion is just basing something on some unproven thing.
That is
so I would say I
true.
want that nothing to do with my life.
Which is fine, and that's why we live in America. Good.
Yeah.
But I will say this: every belief system is based on something unproven. All of them. Human rights means nothing. Where do you get your basis of human rights?
From a feeling. How about that?
Well, exactly.
Which
is subjective.
I handed it to you.
That's right.
Well, right, but that's a blend. So you're saying basically where the liberals would say I'm for this because I'm for gay people. I want gay people to be able to do what they want to do and pursue happiness like anyone else. You would say, well, just this has nothing to do with government and whatever. So I can't. There's not a lot of.
No, there's not a lot of conflict here.
Yeah.
I mean, my governmental policy, because I'm basically a libertarian, is I don't care about that.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the government. This is the difference between a liberal and a leftist. A liberal says, your business, I don't care. A leftist says, no. I think it's imperative that you will be made to care, right? In Eric Erickson's phrase, you'll be made to care. A man will come to your house with a gun and he will tell you that if you do not cater this wedding, they were forced to pay a $175,000 fine for not catering a lesbian wedding. And there's a bakery across the street. This is really nefarious stuff. So this is where you're asking where the momentum comes from?
Yeah.
This is where the momentum comes from. So when I make an argument to conservatives and religious people that the government ought to get out of the business of marriage, I'm not saying that because I'm pro-gay marriage. So what my argument to the right is...
This is where I'm a sensible liberal. And
right, exactly. So this is... Yeah. But this, you'd actually get heavy argument from the not-so-sensible liberals, probably including all of the Democratic nominees. The fact is that what I'm saying is the best argument for the libertarian position on the right here is going to be a rearguard action. It's not going to be, it's better for straight people and it's bad for gay marriage to get it out of that realm. I think that if you want to fight against gay marriage, do it on the social level with your church, teach your kids what you want to teach them. But when it comes to making this argument to conservatives, the real argument is if you don't take power out of the hands of government, if you don't take that ring away from Gollum and throw it into Mount Doom, then it will be